welcome to the Water Cooler, everybody. I'm David Brody. Thanks for joining us. It's Monday, December 12th, 2022, and here are two words that Joe Biden isn't going to like: criminal charges. That's what the GOP is going after when they take control of Congress in just a few short weeks. Here was the New York Post headline over the weekend: Hunting Biden, because, folks, the big fish here is not Hunter, it's his father. And the incoming head of the House Oversight Committee, James Comer, said this weekend that criminal charges are on the table. They're looking specifically at what many are calling a shady China energy deal. The New York Post writes the following, quote, "The panel is particularly focused on a potentially criminal 2017 deal between Hudson West 3, an LLC Hunter Biden managed and invested in, and CEFC, a Chinese energy behemoth looking to sell American liquefied natural gas to China. The core issue is the extent and timing of President Biden's involvement in his son's business dealings. While the elder Biden has long insisted no such ties exist, an overwhelming body of evidence found on Hunter's infamous hard drive and elsewhere indicates otherwise. Since any criminal referrals would have to be made to Attorney General Merrick Garland, a Democrat and a Biden appointee who likely would not prosecute the Bidens, Comer and the GOP are also focused on passing a law that would outlaw future Biden-like behavior." So basically, we're talking influence peddling, or even worse. Here's New York Post investigative reporter Miranda Devine.
Influence peddling is a Washington disease, and it's bipartisan. I do think Joe Biden is a master at it. And look, I guess because of the laptop and because of the sort of Hunter Biden's former business partners who I've had the opportunity to talk to, and also because of the work of the Republican senators Chuck Grassley and Ron Johnson, and they're sort of tracing the money trail from China, Russia, Ukraine, other countries into the bank accounts in America of the Biden family and their various associates. I have a very good picture of exactly how Joe Biden was targeted and influenced by and used by the Chinese Communist Party through his family.
And let's remember here, Joe Biden is on the record saying he didn't know anything about anything regarding China and Hunter.
I wonder what you would like to say about your son and whether any of his troubles have caused conflicts for you or for the United States.
I love my son, number one. He fought an addiction problem. He overcame it. He wrote about it. And no, there's not a single thing that I've observed at all that would affect me or the United States relative to my son Hunter.
Well, Joe, we will see about that, and so will the GOP. Joining me now is my good friend, Governor of South Dakota, Kristi Noem. Governor Noem, great to see you again.
Oh, it's great to be with you, David. Thanks for inviting me.
Well, Biden and China, good luck. There you go. No, I have a question, actually. There's a lot of smoke. Do you see something sinister, possibly criminal here? What are your views on what's happening here?
Oh, absolutely. We've seen something sinister here for years. In fact, it's been astonishing, but not surprising, I guess, to see how the media has tried to cover up all of this and what's been going on with the Biden family. And it needs to be exposed. And listen, their partnership with China is extremely, extremely dangerous for the United States of America. We've known for years that China is our enemy, that they hate us, they want to destroy us as a country. And we're taking action in our state to protect our citizens from the Chinese government and the threats that they face because of what they're threatening to do to the people that live here and in this country. But I would hope that we would have a president someday that recognizes that we shouldn't be doing business dealings with China. We should be making sure that we're securing our country against China.
Yeah, you are definitely taking action against China right there in South Dakota. Let's talk about TikTok. You've taken action to ban the app on state devices. You're fighting back against China in many other ways there in your state. So tell us more about what you're doing there, on the TikTok especially.
Well, I made a decision to do an executive order over a week ago, I think now, to ban TikTok on all state networks on devices. And in fact, if a state employee or someone who contracts with the state does download the app of TikTok or access it, that it'll be a criminal offense. And it's because We recognize and understand that the Chinese government is using this app to collect data on citizens here in our country, that they could even access personal information, get access to our financial institutions. And it is a cybersecurity threat that we need to take action against because Congress hasn't, our president hasn't, and it's a real threat to the American dream. I also moved forward and asked the South Dakota Investment Council to give me within 7 days a report of how we are invested as a state pension fund and retirement fund in funds that could be supporting communist China. They will get me that report within a couple of days here, but they've already divested out of 2 Chinese companies because I've called on them to be accountable to the taxpayers of South Dakota, and that we shouldn't be using our funds to help Chinese companies or those in the Chinese Communist government against the United States of America. So within a couple of days, we will be divesting and looking for opportunities to do so here in South Dakota, recognizing the real threat that China has against us and the agenda that they have against our country.
I also know that you've been very concerned with all the farmland that billionaire Bill Gates is buying up in the heartland. There's been some headlines about that. What is he up to in your view here? What's happening?
Well, it's interesting because it's different, approaches to buying up assets in this country. Bill Gates certainly has been one of those that people are talking about consistently. What is his agenda with having that much land and property in certain parts of the country? But China is also doing that as well. We already have a state law in the books here in South Dakota that a foreign entity can't own more than 160 acres. But we are going back in, and I'm bringing forward a proposal to ensure that we have another layer of investigation into any purchases of land in the South Dakota, but also long-term leases. That would be evaluated, and we would get the opportunity to know that anything of any size could be looked at, and that a foreign entity or country could not purchase that land and gain that kind of control within our borders. We've seen many different countries. In fact, I think I saw a report the other day that said 37 million acres in this country is owned by foreign countries. Some states have a much bigger problem with this than South Dakota. I think it's because we've been proactive and we already have a law in the books. But we're going to do more. We're going to ensure that China cannot come in and buy up our farmland and endanger our national security.
Yeah, for sure. All right, I want to move on to the state of the GOP. There's a lot to sift through. Let's start with President Trump. Of course, he would want us to start with him, of course. You're supportive. I wondered if you're supportive of his run for the presidency. There are some Republicans that want to move on from him. I'm curious to get where you're at with him on this.
Listen, President Trump's policies were fantastic for my state. They were great for this country. I worked with him quite a bit. I was in Congress when we did tax reform, and I was one of the members of that committee and conference committee that worked 2 years on that bill. And we're very thankful to see it signed into law and bring some relief to the American people. So President Trump has always been a friend of mine, and I've supported him and will continue to do so. I think what happened so much in this last election cycle that has people discouraged is that so many Republicans only talked about how bad Joe Biden was. And listen, he is a disaster. He is a disaster for this country. But I talked a lot in my election about hope and about a vision for this country and the good things that were happening here too. And I think people need to understand that there is something positive in our future, and that what we believe actually works if you put it in place. That's what happened in South Dakota. Is we just did what conservatives have always said they believed. We did it here, and it worked. We have the strongest economy in the country. Incomes are going up faster than anywhere else. You can't just talk about how bad Joe Biden is. We also have to talk about, what the American dream is and how much it works.
What about Kevin McCarthy? You know him obviously personally. He has his quest now to become Speaker of the House. He hasn't secured the votes yet. Do you support him for Speaker? What's your view on that, Governor?
I do. Kevin's a friend of mine. He's the right leader at the right time. He'll do a great job as Speaker, and I'm looking forward to having him in that role.
Okay. What about Ronna McDaniel? I know there's been concern there. Does the RNC need new leadership? What's your view on that?
Well, listen, we have to evaluate our leadership. We had a terrible election cycle 2 years ago, and then again we underperformed. And so we have to ask ourselves some hard questions. I don't know of anybody who loses that much and gets to keep their job. So I know that she's got support, but I think we do need to recognize that we have to make some changes and we have to start winning. I am sick of seeing so many of these races that we should be winning, and we're not getting them across the finish line.
Yes.
We're not doing things right. We're not investing our dollars where they should be. The decisions are not being made that are correct, and we need to win. So, David, let's make sure we've got the right leadership team to win, because our country depends on it.
Right. So on Kevin McCarthy, you were quick to say, yes, on Kevin McCarthy, but on McDaniel, the jury's still out. You're not convinced.
Well, listen, Kevin won some tough races. He went out there and cast a vision. We've got 2 cycles here now where the Republican Party in itself needs to stop and evaluate itself on how we're doing on being effective. So
Right.
I do know that we got to ask ourselves some hard questions. I do every single day. I hold myself accountable to the results that I'm delivering. I think everyone in this party should do that as well.
All right. I want to ask you about your book, a wonderful book. It's called Not My First Rodeo. It's not your first rodeo. It's a great look at your life story and the challenges you had to overcome. Now, Governor Noem, I want to go back 9 years ago. I came out to your home. We did that profile of you for CBN.
Long time ago.
Yeah, that was a long time ago, and a few follicles on my end ago, if you will. Here is a short clip. Have a look.
Oh, no.
Life as a simple farm girl meant hard work, attending rodeos, and singing at church. She gave her young life to the Lord at Bible school. And then, while in college, she received heartbreaking news. Her father died in a tragic farming accident.
When he passed away, my whole life changed.
She felt lost, no longer able to go to her dad.
I remember laying in bed that night, not even knowing how we were going to do tomorrow. Because if we had a problem in our lives, if we didn't know what to do, Dad always knew. I sat up for several nights. I didn't sleep for about a week and just read my Bible.
And this woman of the prairie got tough, left college early, and came home to run the family farm. Well, there it is. Tell us more about what drives you and how God factors into everything you do, Governor Noem.
Well, my faith is my foundation. So, this job is unpredictable. We've had incredible challenges ever since Dad did pass away. That turned our life upside down. But every single day we got up knowing that God is good all the time and put one foot in front of the other. And I would have never dreamed back then that I would run for public office, serve in Congress, and then now be governor of the great state of South Dakota. So time has passed, but I still hear his words in my head every single day of, we don't complain about things, we fix them. You should know what I need before I have to say it. Be strategic. Think 3 steps ahead of what needs to be done today. Don't think about yourself. Don't get angry on behalf of yourself. Always fight for other people. Those words I hear every single day, and they keep me motivated to keep doing the job that I do here for the people of South Dakota.
That's wonderful. And as we wrap up here about your book, tell people what you want them to get out of it. What was not just the reason you wrote it, but some of what the takeaway is for folks that might be inspired by it.
I would say that the value of the book is learning leadership skills through a different experience. Growing up on a farm and ranch. Not a lot of people in this country get to grow up the way that I did. We all have powerful people in our lives that change the way we think about different situations or help us build character. Some of the things I talk about in the book is that hard things are not bad. They actually help us become problem solvers. So you go through something that's difficult. It helps give you confidence when you get through it to take on the next challenge in front of you. So I hope it's a perspective changer for many people. A lot of what's going on in this world can make people feel unsettled. I hope that they read this book and gain confidence in themselves, and they recenter back on what made this country special: our faith, our God, our families, and boy, the freedom and the liberty that our founders gave us.
Governor Kristi Noem, great to have you on the show. Always good to see you. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
All right. And look, one of the things she told me in that interview is that, in essence, life is a mission field. And that when she was in Washington as a House member, that was a chance to minister to folks, to really show Christ to people, not just talking about it, but showing it by example as well. And boy, has she done that, not just in her time in Washington, but as governor of South Dakota. Yeah, is that the state? Just kidding. I know. It's not North Dakota. Salt of the earth for sure. All right, when we come back, more Donald Trump talk. We're going to talk with Angie Wong from Legacy PAC in a moment.